Well, Middletown, like just about every other town in the country, is being affected in some ways by certainly the heroin epidemic and substance abuse in general. And this is something that we've been on top of, I think, for a long time, but we're doing everything you can do from a municipal level to try and address this. But it's something that we see more and more. Every week, it seems, we hear about somebody else, another overdose case or another crime that's drug-related, is something. And it's really, as the word implies, an epidemic in many respects, certainly criminal, certainly cultural, certainly sociological.
Smack, dope,
H,
Big H,
horse,
Helda,
boy, girl,
black,
tar,
diesel,
Shiva, dog food.
junk.
Heroin.
It will take everything you've ever loved and it will destroy it.
Heroin comes from a poppy plant which grows in big stalks, and it's got this big bulb on the end of it. They extract the white substance by scraping the bulb with a knife, and this milky substance comes out and they start the refining process.
The opium is refined into morphine, which is further refined into making other forms of heroin.
Most of it's brought from Afghanistan.
And when you're in the West Coast, it usually comes from Mexico.
On the East Coast, there's powdered heroin, which is the gray, brown powder-like substance, and then on the West Coast would be the actual tar heroin, which is like a sticky tar-like substance.
Heroin is usually cut with other things such as either arsenic or other drugs just to make it cheaper, make more money for the dealers.
You never know exactly what they put in it, so it's very, very high risk of OD. One shot, you could die.
Well, one of the most effective bodies that we have in town is the Middletown Drug and Alcohol Alliance. I've been a member of this for 12, 13 years now, and we meet once a month, and they have various programs that they oversee. They're funded by grants through the county and through the state, and it's really a very effective program. They've literally saved people's lives.
It can be smoked, snorted, and shot with a needle.
Started off smoking heroin.
I would just smoke it because I was told that that wouldn't be as addictive as using needles.
I would start out snorting it, and I wouldn't get that rush anymore, that good feeling that you're always searching for every time you want to do or snort heroin. And eventually the rush doesn't happen anymore, so you turn to the needle.
That this is something that municipalities or even counties cannot do on their own. It has to be cut off at the source. I think they have to do a better job, the federal government, of stopping the flow of drugs into this country. That would raise the price and maybe price some people out of the market. Right now, it's so inexpensive, just about anybody can afford it. And I think that's part of the problem, the availability and the low cost of the narcotics.
I was about 17 years old when I first tried it.
First time I was 18.
19 years old.
First time I did heroin, I was 14 years old.
It was a friend of mine that introduced it to me.
My boyfriend at the time.
One of my buddies just came and showed me it, and I tried it. That was it.
I decided, okay, something new, something to make me feel okay with myself and believe I'd be functional.
Started off as fun. Let's get high. But the problem with heroin is you can't just do it one time.
Parents should look for, and I know we get the list out there, changes in behavior, changes in friends, maybe sleeping late, isolated in the room, messy room, all of these things. And when I read the list, it pretty much fits any teenager. But there is a difference. There's certainly physical signs, withdrawn, pale look. Heroin changes a person's physical appearance remarkably. It's incredible how once beautiful young men and women become hollowed out walking corpses. So you can see the physical effects on it, but the behavior, I think, is really what you want to look out for. And I know some of the schools have programs where they do random drug testing for people who have parking permits, who are on teams and everything like that. And a lot of these problems may be identified during those programs.
At first, I didn't really think I was addicted. I just wanted to try it a few times.
But once you do it, it's you start becoming sick. You start going through withdrawal. The cravings are absolutely worse than any other drug that I had ever done.
The sickness is so intense, you would rather die than go through that.
After I started feeling the effects of it, the side effects, the withdrawal symptoms, now I didn't know what was going on.
Hot sweats and cold chills at the same time, like you just can't get comfortable. You try to fall asleep just to make it go away, and you can't fall asleep.
Your whole appearance changes. I would break out a lot. My skin was like yellow. and my eyes were sunken in.
Hallucinations from lack of sleep, loss of appetite.
I really couldn't concentrate, I couldn't pay attention.
And as crazy as it sounds, I didn't know what heroin would do to me when I first started doing it. I was just completely ignorant of that. I just thought, oh, it's another drug. I can just do it on the weekends and have fun.
I was on the Board of Education, 1995. And back then, drugs were a real issue, which they are today, probably even more so today. And I was the liaison between the Board of Education and the Middletown Alliance. And once I got really involved with it and I saw the programs and the treatment that we were giving, you know, not only Middletown residents and anyone who walked in the door, I was hooked. It's impacted me in a way that we're helping people. You can't save them all, but you can save them one at a time.
The reality of it is it is a big deal.
I woke up in Long Beach not knowing how I got there, convulsing and like seizing. And, you know, it had like a skyrocketing temperature of 107, just about dead out the door.
I wound up on the street, homeless, nowhere to go. My family didn't know where I was, and I was just in total apathy. I didn't care about anything.
I was living in a car in the middle of winter in Baltimore, got robbed, got maced in the face. I had nothing. I was freezing and dying, alone.
What I've learned about drugs is how devastating it can be to not only the individual, but the family, friends, relatives, and to watch someone come in and really, you know, it hit rock bottom, that they come in and they get help, and they succeed. We've had clients that have actually come to our programs to tell their stories on how, you know, if it wasn't for the Alliance, that they don't know where they would be today, and that feels good.
I wanted to get high. I didn't have any money, so I looked at a couple bank statements that my mom got in, transferred over like $27,000 into my account. Spent that within like 2 weeks, broke back into the house after they changed the locks, and ran up to my mother's bedroom, stole her wedding ring, and went and pawned that.
It ended up me getting caught. I got like 4 felonies, a couple misdemeanors, got arrested.
It clouded my mind to a point where everything was almost like a video game. No real sense of consequence, no real sense of, this is what I'm doing to other people around me, or this is what I'm doing to myself. It's just, keep doing what I'm doing.
We try and support those who want to be cured. We evaluate, and then if we can help them at the Alliance, we do that. If we can't, we send them out to where they can get the help. All of our services are free. We do not charge anyone that walks in the door. But again, if we can do it at the clinic, we have certified counselors that are there. So we do the best we can.
I'm scared more of my parents than anything, because it's just like, they wanted to know what they did as parents wrong, and it wasn't them, it was all about me. I didn't care.
It destroyed my family, financially, mentally, and physically.
You're not aware of the damage it's doing to you, not to mention your family.
It destroyed my entire body.
2 years after I quit, I finally could digest a normal meal.
My teeth were destroyed from it.
I still get, restlessness.
My joints and all my bones constantly ache.
I don't have veins in here anymore.
And I actually have some wounds from it on each of my shoulders.
We take our programs into the schools, into 5th, 6th, 7th, the middle schools and high schools. We run programs all year round, and it's a big school district. There's 12 schools, so we run these programs. There is good participation. Parents are engaged. And we're teaching the kids to just say no, and it's not uncool to do that. Or you're not squealing on anybody if you see a friend or somebody that has fallen to the wayside, to try and get them help. I had a personal experience with that, where my son saw one of his best friends who was going, to the dark side with cocaine, and he brought it to my attention. So I told him, I advised him to go see the school counselors. So he did that. He brought, and it came to a head where the kid was finally, he was called in, and then he went through it, and he hated my son for a long, long time. He thought he was a squealer. He thought he was everything else. But when the kid got clean and was back to reality, he actually came back and thanked my son.
I mean, I remember hearing, don't do it, just say no. And I had no idea what the reality was.
If I had more information on heroin and the facts and the dangers about it, I definitely would have touched it.
If I would have actually listened and learned some of the things that I know now, I would have never started doing drugs.
You try drugs, it doesn't matter who you are.
We're finding that, the kids are starting very, very young, younger than when I was a kid, or even when my son was when they were teenagers. It's getting bad. It's really starting to infiltrate the middle schools, and again, that's why we run our programs, and then we have a annual program called Reaching Out, where we have like the municipal judge, the township administrator, the chief of police, and the undercover police who are trying to help Middletown, get rid of these dealers and things like that. And they ask them, and they tell them what they do, and the effects that drugs really have on individuals, not just kids but adults, and what people see when somebody has a drug and what it does to the family. And it's been very effective. I mean, we have a packed house almost every year, and we've been running that Reaching Out program since I can remember. So it's been very effective. Our educational programs, our Reaching Out programs and things like that I think have really helped Middletown community with the problem. But again, the problem's still there.
It doesn't matter how good of a person you are or what your goals are, the drugs can take it all away.
People don't realize just how alcohol and drugs impact and the results. And, the usage. Back in the day, heroin wasn't because it was too expensive. Now today, that's the cocktail drug. I mean, that's the drug of choice because it's so cheap. And we're finding out that it's, being cut with bad stuff, and sometimes it's rat poison or something like that, and and we're losing kids that way. We have a problem with the heroin, like I said, which is the drug of choice today, and what we try and do is educate the kids on how bad that is for you, and again, just through education and with the support, again with the support of the Township Committee and the Board of Education, I think we're getting our message through.
It's not a joke. It's not a game.
Don't think it's all going to be fun and games, because it's not. And it never has ended that way for anyone.
The message is that one mistake could cost you your life. And we have parents, grieving parents, who are part of the Alliance, who've had to live through that tragedy where their child made one bad decision. And I think today's youth, I think that they really understand that. Because I've had a couple kids, when we go through this Reaching Out program, that, you can hear their comments going, wow, they didn't, and that they would never do drugs, and it's a lot of it has to do with the family, and the support, and just, letting them know that one bad decision could cost you your life.
No little kid grows up thinking, one day I'm gonna be a heroin addict. They wanna be superheroes or firefighters or things like that.
The parents have to take an active role and in what their children are doing. They need to be educated to see the signs of, if they're inebriated, if they're high on something, and that's why we try and get the parents involved as well as the kids, to educate them, to let again, to see that if your son comes home and he's like lethargic, or his words are going somewhere and he's talking, he's not making any sense, that you gotta be a parent and come up to him and what's going on, what are you doing, what's this, what's that. And deal with it. Don't shrug it to the side, because you're not helping your child. Both parents have to work today, but they still should have a family unit and know what their kids are doing, because if they're neglected by their parents, the outside influences become more prevalent, and so because the kids need to be involved, need to be accepted, need to be part of a group, and what you need to do is make sure that group isn't the wrong group that they're going to hang around with, and again, it's all part of parenting.
When you're a heroin addict, that's what you do. That's all you do.
I think that you lead by example. I do that in my profession. I lead by example. I don't expect my employees to do anything more than I would do, and I think that's what parents have to do. Parents have to, show their children and teach them their values and things that are bad and are not in their best interest, and they have to again get involved with their child's life. Don't give them $20 and say, here, come see me when it's dinner time. I mean, one of the things that I do and I still do is we had dinner together every night. If I had a planning board or council meeting at 7:00, I would make sure I was home, and we would eat dinner at 5. But the whole family ate dinner together, and we talked about the day, and we would do things like that. I believe we go to church every when the kids were growing up every Sunday. My kids got involved with the youth group in the church, and those are the types of kids that they ended up hanging out with. They really didn't hang around with kids in the school system because, again, they saw that there were groups of kids. This was one group, this was another group, and they just didn't want to get involved with that. So, again, it's the parenting, it's the way that they conduct their family. A lot of these shows today, you always see alcohol. I watch the comedies. I mean, the dramas are, who's having an affair with somebody, who's doing whatever, drinking or, and everybody's got a problem, and I think that's a big issue with the way kids are looking at the world. Alcohol's a drug. It's an addictive drug, and and pot and marijuana, that's an addictive drug, and that's the stepping stone, because the human body is a a magnificent machine. Yeah, but you take so much. That's why alcoholics start out 1 or 2 drinks, and then all of a sudden it's a bottle, then it's 2 or 3 bottles. The body gets used to it, and you're not getting that same euphoria or that same high. Same thing with marijuana. You start smoking pot, and you only get a certain high. So now, okay, but I want to feel better. So now I'm going to start on something else, and then something else, and then something else, and then that becomes a heroin addiction. So that's why we try again to get them so young that they understand. And well, mommy and daddy take a drink. Well, that's true, but mommy and daddy are sensible about it. Mommy and daddy don't fall over or don't do stupid things as a result of that. And again, it's all education. It would be great if nobody drank or nobody took any drugs and everything, but that's not reality. The reality is people are going to do this, but they have to educate their children that it's not good. The Alliance has survived because of the support of not only its members, but the support of, again, the Township Committee and the Board of Education. I don't think we would be here without their support, not only financially, but just in the fact that they let us run these programs and try and educate these kids and try and make Middletown a better place to live and be as drug-free as we can. We know we can't be 100%, but again, if we can save them one at a time, I think we're doing okay.
So far in our program, we've talked about very addictive drugs. But another drug which can also wreak havoc among people is alcohol. And while it may be legal, it's important to realize it is still a drug. So always be safe, be sensible, and know your limit. And think before you drink. Obviously, your body belongs to you. But as they say, the more you know about what happens inside your body when you consume alcohol, the better you'll understand the impact it has on your brain and the actual damage it can do. That's one of the reasons why the Middletown Municipal Alliance to Prevent Alcoholism and Drug Abuse was created, to provide you with information about drugs and alcohol so you can make informed choices in relationship to safe alcohol consumption. So, for example, did you know that healthy people metabolize alcohol at a fairly consistent rate? As a rule of thumb, a person will eliminate 1 standard drink or 10 mils of alcohol per hour. And remember, it's not how many drinks you have, but how much actual alcohol you consume. And several factors influence this rate, including gender, age, height, weight, general health, and the presence of food in the stomach, the concentration of alcohol in the drink, and prescription or illicit drugs that are taken with the alcohol. It's the blood alcohol concentration, or BAC as they call it, which is the key to why we are affected by alcohol. So basically, your blood alcohol concentration is the relationship between the total amount of alcohol in your system divided by total body water, because alcohol is dissolved and diluted in water. So that's why drinking lots of water with alcohol consumption is always a very good thing to do. The BAC and the effects of alcohol go up when the body is taking alcohol faster than it can metabolize it. So for example, if you binge drink and consume a 750 ml bottle of rum or 3 bottles of wine, that's about 26 standard drinks, and you consume it between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m., your body will need sometime around 6 p.m. the next day to process and get rid of the alcohol. That's why driving or operating equipment the next day after you've been drinking is not a very good idea, especially when you consider what alcohol is doing to your brain. So what does alcohol do? It enters the body and it first ends up in the stomach, at which point about 20% of it is absorbed immediately, while the other 80% is absorbed in the small intestine. The heart then pumps the absorbed alcohol to every part of the body, including the central nervous system, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord. But it gets to the brain really quickly. So that's why even after one drink, you can feel lightheaded or relaxed. Alcohol acts primarily on the nerve cells in the brain, and it interferes with communications between nerve cells and all other cells, slowing everything down. And that's why when we drink even a little, we experience the effects of alcohol on our emotions, judgment, balance, memory, speech, and anger levels, just to name a few. So your brain is still developing until you are between the ages of 20 and 25. So you need to be really careful because alcohol can do some irreversible damage to various parts of our brains. For example, drinking affects the cerebral cortex, which controls our senses and inhibitory senses, which is why when you drink, you become more uninhibited, and you're more talkative, more self-confident, less inhibited. It also controls our thought processes. So alcohol affects our ability to make good judgments and think clearly. The brain's frontal lobes are important for planning, forming ideas, making decisions, and using self-control. So when alcohol affects the frontal lobes of the brain, you may find it hard to control emotions and urges, and you may act without thinking, or sometimes act violently, or act completely out of character. Now, the cerebellum is important for coordination, thinking, and being aware. So again, you may have trouble with these skills when drinking alcohol. That's why people affected by alcohol can't walk properly, or they lose their balance and fall. The hippocampus is the part of the brain where memories are made. So when alcohol reaches the hippocampus, you may have trouble remembering something you just heard, or even worse, have a blackout and not be able to remember anything you did the previous night. If alcohol damages the hippocampus, you may find it hard later on in life to learn or remember anything. Now, the hypothalamus is part of the brain that does an amazing number of the body's housekeeping chores. So after a person drinks alcohol, blood pressure, hunger, thirst, and the urge to urinate increases, while body temperature and heart rate decreases. And finally, the medulla controls the body's automatic actions, like your heartbeat. It also keeps your body at the right temperature. Because alcohol chills the body, drinking a lot of it outdoors in cold weather could cause your body temperature to fall below normal and cause hypothermia. So that's it. In the end, your body obviously belongs to you, so it's important to get the facts, such as alcohol is unsafe for the developing brain. Alcohol can damage your brain forever. Long-term functioning and health of your brain depends on the choices you make today. So your responsible attitude toward alcohol can have a positive influence on your friends and family. If you or someone you know needs help with drugs or alcohol, do find local resources in your community, which are focused on providing information and counseling. If you live in Middletown, New Jersey, contact the Middletown Municipal Alliance to prevent alcoholism and drug abuse.